Hello, and welcome to this presentation. My name is Susanna, and I'm here today to talk to you about Hannah, or how a game can be designed to strengthen support networks for those experiencing domestic violence. I'd like to start this presentation today by acknowledging the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work. I pay my respect to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Before I get started, I did just want to provide a content warning, as this presentation does focus on domestic violence and also contains mentions of sexual assault. Today I would like to talk to you about some of the research that informed the design of Hannah, A Friend in Need, an interactive game prototype that explores the potential of games to strengthen support networks for those experiencing domestic violence. Domestic violence, or sometimes known as DV, is an ongoing pattern of abusive behaviours where a person attempts to control and dominate another with whom they have, or had, an intimate relationship. It's known that DV can affect women, men, and gender-diverse folk, and it consists of physical and sexual violence, as well as non-physical forms of violence, such as coercive control. Coercive control is a set of controlling behaviours described by Evan Stark in 2007 as a pattern of behaviour used by an abuser with the intent of removing the victim's liberty or freedom. Coercive control uses strategies such as isolation, degradation, mind games, and the micro-regulation of everyday life in order to control those experiencing the abuse. Public awareness campaigns designed to reduce domestic violence in Australia have been implemented since the 1980s. However, those awareness campaigns have generally focused on physical and sexual abuse and did not address or raise awareness of non-physical forms of abuse and the impact that those can have on victim survivors. Presently, public awareness and uncertainty about what constitutes DV outside of physical and sexual abuse remains limited, and this is particularly the case in younger generations. The 2015 Young Australians' Attitudes Towards Violence Against Women report revealed that young Australians aged 16 to 24 demonstrated a lower level understanding of non-physical forms of violent behaviour than the older age groups surveyed. This lack of awareness around the non-physical forms of DV means that those who are experiencing them may not be recognised by members of the public, particularly the younger generation, as needing support. This is important because research by social policy expert Imogen Parker, published in 2015, suggests that informal support networks, such as friends, family, and neighbours, are often the first to be made aware of DV. And the way in which they respond to learning about the abuse is incredibly important. In fact, research by social work academics Janet Fanslow and Elizabeth Robinson into the experiences of victim survivors breaking free from violent relationships suggests that one of the main reasons that those experiencing DV find it difficult to leave violent relationships is actually due to unhelpful or uninformed responses that they receive from those close to them when they do share their experiences or reveal the abuse that they're experiencing. With the importance of informal support networks to victim survivors in mind, an awareness campaign that works to build support networks' understanding of non-physical elements of DV and their impact has the potential to dramatically strengthen the support they are able to provide to their friends and family experiencing DV, and would enable them to better provide informed and relevant support from the very moment that they are first made aware of the abuse. In order to explore the development of such a campaign, I examined how existing awareness campaigns for DV and sexual assault have been designed in the social work area. I found that many successful approaches to raising awareness of DV were designed to incite empathy for victim survivors through immersing individuals in personalized narrative experiences and recounts, told through creative mediums such as literature and film. Inspired by the success of these approaches, as well as the engaging and immersive nature of digital games, I wanted to explore the potential of a digital game to deeply engage players in such a personalized narrative experience. Game scholar Ian Bogo's 2007 book, Persuasive Games, suggests that games may be particularly well positioned to facilitate such engagement, suggesting the unique nature of digital games to be crafted to facilitate exploration with situations and perspectives that are different to those we experience every day, and that this could provide players with the opportunity to empathize with people and situations they might not ordinarily encounter. Whilst exploring existing empathy-based awareness campaigns that utilize literature and film, I discovered the work of social work researcher Elizabeth Segal, who in 2011 identified a specific type of empathy known as social empathy. Segal describes social empathy as a particularly powerful form of empathy that, when incited, not only develops an individual's understanding of another person's feelings and experiences, but which actively encourages these individuals to work towards creating a positive social change for those which they are feeling empathy for. Returning again to Bogo's work around the influential nature of games, he suggests that digital games are well positioned to draw players' attention to specific situations, communicate circumstances around these situations, and even encourage players to begin to make movements to improve it. Bogo's theory that digital games can encourage players to make movements towards social change suggests that a game design could be a particularly well-suited medium with which to explore the inciting of social empathy. With this in mind, if social empathy could be successfully invoked through a game, not only could such a game raise awareness of DV and its impact in its audience, creating stronger and more informed members of informal support networks, but it could mean that a game could also work to actively encourage these informal support network members to take steps towards working to create positive social change for victim survivors of domestic violence in the real world. In order to explore this idea, I commenced the design and development process of the interactive narrative game prototype, Hannah, A Friend in Need, or Hannah for short. Hannah was designed to allow me to explore some of the practical ways in which a game could be designed with Segal's concept of social empathy in mind. Multiple elements of the design of Hannah, including the genre and style of the game, the narrative design of the game, the framing of the player role inside the game, and the rules and processes embodied in the game, were each heavily influenced and informed by Segal's social empathy theory and the elements contained within it. As well as inciting empathy, it's important for players of Hannah to develop increased awareness of how non-physical elements of DV, such as coercive control, can dramatically affect victim survivors, and just the type of impact that it can have on them. In order to do this, I really needed to make sure that the information communicated in the game's narrative was as accurate and informed as possible. As such, Hannah's personalized narrative story was informed and inspired by the real-life anonymised stories of Australian victim survivors provided by the Domestic Violence Resource Centre of Victoria in 2019. These stories were provided to the Resource Centre staff by victim survivors themselves, who wished to share their stories in an attempt to raise public awareness around what a violent relationship might look and feel like, and how it is to leave such a relationship. An initial evaluation of the Hannah prototype was undertaken by DV professional support workers and professional game developers. Feedback around the potential of the game to raise awareness of non-physical elements of DV and their impact was positive across both groups. And this suggested that the game was successful in demonstrating some of the non-physical elements of DV and the impact that these had on the in-game character Hannah. Encouraging feedback was also received regarding the potential of the game prototype to incite social empathy in its players. And one game developer evaluator actually stated that feeling empathy for Hannah had resulted in a change in their existing perspectives on DV, and described how after playing the game, they felt better equipped to provide support to victim survivors in the real world. Whilst applying social empathy to a digital game is a new approach, results such as these suggest that this approach has significant potential to raise awareness of topics such as DV in their audience and their players, and actively encourage individuals to become informed members of support networks. Hannah has only just begun to scratch the surface of how games can utilize social empathy elements to incite positive social change, and I'm really excited to see just how far this can go in the future. Future development for Hannah and this research is planned, including refining the game in line with the evaluation feedback. And I'm also planning to make the game publicly available at no fee. Future development of the software that was created and used to design Hannah is also planned in order to encourage others to use this, and as well as encouraging game designers and professionals like support workers and social workers, as well as those with lived experience, to collaborate and create games that aim to promote social empathy and social change across a wide variety of topics. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.